Yo, what's up boys? If you want to correctly VOD review your own games to see what you do wrong each game, then you definitely click the right video. Alright, so VOD reviewing is one of the most important things you can do to become a better player. And like the majority of people do find it pretty boring, which is why a lot of good players, like the top players, definitely do VOD review a lot, is because they're willing to do what's boring and what most people wouldn't do to become good. But you need to remember that practicing, like actually playing the game, is definitely like better and more important. So you need to keep it at like 25% like VOD reviewing and learning, watching videos, and then like 75% actually playing the game and trying to implement the stuff you learn. And I think the mistake a lot of people make is like when they VOD review, they think extremely shallow about the reason they died. Like say for example in game and you have like bad mats, and then you just like go for a kill or for a refresh because you want more mats, and then you just like do a wrong edit or like miss a shot or go for the wrong kill, and you're like, oh yeah, I just like missed my shot or did a bad edit or we just went for the wrong kill. Like you need to think a lot deeper than that. Like think about in the past of the game, like maybe for example what in the previous portion of your game made it so you're in the position where you're in now where you have to go for a kill. Like think way deeper and stop thinking like just in all the micro things and start thinking in like the macro concepts of the game. And macro means like the big things, and micro just means the small tiny like things, like just editing and doing the singular move and stuff. And I think a lot of people might assume that VOD reviewing might be difficult for them because like they won't be able to figure out what they do wrong for themselves. But I find even if you VOD review yourself, like the knowledge you have outside of like playing is always greater than the knowledge you actually use in a game, because like when you're in a game there's like stress levels and stuff and you stop thinking about certain things or you forget to use things. So outside the game your knowledge is usually a lot more advanced than what you actually like do in game. So you'll be able to find a bunch of things, and you can also come up with new concepts and like realize stuff that you didn't realize before even without like someone telling you. So you can definitely VOD review your own games by yourself and still learn things, but it still could be good to get like someone that knows a lot to VOD review your games, or to even VOD review like a way better player and then VOD review yourself so you can see what the top players do that you don't do. And also how I said about the macro things, like focus on the bigger picture, like think deeper about the game and not just like the shallow little things. You should like not completely avoid all the shallow little things, because it is also good to like learn how you could clutch, like if you do muck up your game earlier from a bigger issue. Like it could still be good to figure out like the mistakes you make to not clutch at the end when you have like bad mats. But you need to focus and put most of your energy into thinking about the bigger things, because if you just fill your mind up with all these little micro things that you need to do, then you'll like not have the energy or time to think about the more important things. So get like a 20% balance to like 80% of like big things. And when you VOD review your games, you want to think about like the tip you're going to give yourself after, like the thing you learn. You need to figure out a way that gives you a strategy that you can implement in most of your games to avoid this situation again. Like try to make something as broad as possible that could be put into every game, not just like the singular situation, if you know what I mean. Like for example, you could say in a game you may rotate like a bad way to zone and then you die because of it, and instead of saying we shouldn't have rotated this way in this game because it affected us later on and gave us bad mats and stuff, you need to think of a good strategy and concept that you can come up with that will implement that same thing into all your other games. Like when zone is like this, then don't rotate that way, rotate this way, and then you can remember that and implement it into all your games. And when you learn and figure out things that you do wrong in the game by VOD reviewing, then you really want to write it down somewhere, like maybe in your own private Discord or just anywhere that you can write notes. And then when you next play scrims or even a tournament, you can open it up on your second monitor, your notes, and then you can like actively try to practice or implement them into the game while you're playing your scrims or tournaments. Also, I want to talk about when you should VOD review, right? Because I think most people just think you should instantly VOD review your games after you play the games, right? It makes sense for some things, but I think for scrims, you should definitely VOD review right after you play the scrims if you have time. because right after your scrims is when your knowledge is on the games is like completely refreshed, and you'll be able to remember like what happened in each game and why you died, or like your comms and stuff. But in a tournament, I'd say you want to generally do it like the day after your tournament, because in a tournament you use so much more mental energy than scrims, and after you play a tournament, or like you would have used so much of your mental energy and you won't be able to think or come up with good concepts or think super deeply. So I'd say you probably want to do that like the day after. Also, I think you guys should definitely record your games from like a scrim or a tournament so you can hear the comms from you and your teammate, because that's another really important thing. Because a lot of the time, if you record yourself and watch over the comms and stuff, you'll realize like how cluttered your comms might be, and that could be another thing you really want to work on apart from just what you do in game, because it is really important how you talk and communicate with the people you're playing to. So now I just want to show you like an example, right? I just picked some random game. There's no reason I picked these specific people except for that they have bad mats at this point. And I want to show you an example of what I meant before by not thinking so shallow. So I do start this game off, this end game, with like terrible mats, obviously. Generally speaking, I've said a lot, you want to play just high layers on first and second moving. But since they're solo mats, they're generally having to play lower layers because they'll struggle to play up here if they don't have any mats. And the second moving goes over here and it'll pull up this hill, and eventually they don't really have the mats to go up there like really early, because these people up here, like, they should generally have pretty good mats and they should just be able to like use a bunch of mats to get over, because it's only second moving. You should have enough mats to do that. But for them, they can't really do that, and they end up just sitting down here and getting congested and then going up and dying because of that. And if you think shallow in this situation, you might just think, oh, we should have just went for a kill earlier, or damn, I just went the wrong way there. But what they should be thinking is why they are in this position to have to get a refresh, because you shouldn't have to go for a refresh this time. You should put yourself in a good position where you're gonna have to get a kill like 4th or 3rd moving zone, right? So it could be good for them to think, oh, we should have just got together, fully healed up, and then went down behind someone's top and went for a kill. Like, it's good to think like that, but you can't spend all your time thinking about that. You need to just realize that and then be like, yeah, that's a good idea. But then you need to go back in your game, and it could even start from here, right? We know zone goes down here, and you can probably predict zone does go down there. If you want to have good mats in game, you need to like kind of be playing. It does depend on your surge, but here surge doesn't matter too much, and I think they've already got some, so they could get away with going down here to dead side, and then second zone will pull down here again, and they can stay dead side, keep their mats up, keep away from people, and then when third zone opens up, they hook it to the center. They could have done that. They do kind of wait here and don't get down there early. Yeah, so here is probably when it goes wrong. So they keep going this way, when instead I would have went all the way over here and went over here somewhere, obviously dead side, and then when third zone appears, it will be easy for me to hook in while I'm still cap mats, and then I'll be mid third with almost cap mats. But instead they kind of hook it straight through and they come against people, and then they're kind of stuck here and they can't move, and then because of that, next second zone they won't be able to just hook it immediately in. They're gonna sit behind people and waste more mats. And also when they're in this position, they can't be refarming because there's a bunch of people on them, but imagine you're down here in dead side, you can definitely refarm easily. And even if they did need surge, they could still do kind of the same thing by maybe sitting here. Anywhere along here, you can congested side and still get surge, but keep your mats up. And see, they do try to go more dead side again, but because they're like in this congested area, because they don't hook it far enough, then they get shot at and waste mats here. And you can notice they just keep wasting mats over and over again because of that one decision to go directly in here. And then imagine this, they're somewhere down here and now third zone appeared and they're cap mats because they've been refarming and haven't had to box up and fight anyone. And now with their max mats, they can just go like this, just hook it right into the center on a good high spot for surge, and they'll get any zone and they'll end up being a 4th zone with capable mats. They do end up getting in like a decent position, but obviously it's not the best position they could be in. If they were like positioned back here on an early spot, they could probably get up like here this would be a really good spot. Even though it's not fully center, it's a really high up spot, and they could get a lot of surge from here as well, and like a really high chance of next turn. So this position here, even though it's not terrible, it could be another reason why they waste a bunch of mats, because then they're gonna have to rotate again. Also, maybe they didn't know that there was no one up here, but obviously this spot's way better. Just a random tip, a lot of the time, if you don't know if someone's in a base and you kind of want to know if you can get that spot, you just literally just shoot out their wall and see if they rebuild it or not, you know. And then you notice here they don't pull again, so they have to like either build out and basically make another base, or they have to rotate and make another whole base. And you gotta think about how many bases they've had to build because of the first position they were in over here. They have to build another base, and then they have to rotate onto the next zone and build another base over here, and then, over here. And then because of them not being in a really good position, they had to build another base in. That's so many bases without any possibility to refarm. And now because of not being able to refarm and constantly having to build bases, they're like 90 builds each, which isn't like terrible, but obviously they could be like 140 each if they had a way better like method or rotate in the first or second zone. If they just had that one better rotate, they would have set themselves up for every other better rotate in the future to be like set up in the center here with like 140 mats each. And if they're in that position, because of that, they would be able to play in-game normally and play up a higher layer and not have to go for a refresh in-game. So yeah, you should try to think that deep about a game, like instead of just thinking really shallow about what happens as soon as you die. But also do not forget to not completely disregard what happens just before you die, because that is still a thing you should work on. No matter how good you get, there's still going to be some games where you do get in a scuffed position, like in game, like a lot of games actually, depending on how skilled the lobby is. So you do also need to think about the micro things, but most of the time you should think about the way bigger picture of the games. Yo, thanks for making it through the whole video. If you enjoyed this video and you learned a lot, then definitely watch this video that I'm putting up on the screen right now, where I teach you guys how to avoid fights so you can make in-game. Anyways, join the community Discord using the link in the description of this video if you want to be involved in any videos like I usually do view or VOD reviews. If you want to be involved in that, you can join the Discord. Use code VUJ, and remember to like, comment or subscribe if you actually found the video useful. See ya.